Hi everyone, welcome to Rosie's Dessert Spot. Today I'll be demonstrating how to create this really fun 2-tier photo strip or film strip cake. It was my grandmother's 80th birthday recently, so that is the occasion for this cake, and I used the edible image printer by Edible Image Supplies to create this. Stick around to the end and I'll show you guys how you can create your own film strip template, or you can download it as well. I'll leave a download link in case you'd like to use the film strip. Here we have a 4-inch cake that has been frosted with buttercream. I'm going to be applying a fondant lid and then wrapping around some fondant over the top. You could use ganache underneath this, but I find that buttercream works pretty well here as well. Trim off the overlap. I like to trim off a little bit extra so there's like 3 layers, that way you can take out that middle section and you know for a fact that they're all going to line up when you ravel it back onto the cake. I hope that kind of makes sense there, but basically it just creates a nice flush cut when you do it that way. Here I have a razor. I'm going to be trimming off just the weight of that heavier fondant on top. Makes it a lot easier for you to then be able to trim as close to the top of the cake as possible without any overhanging fondant getting in the way. Once your cakes have been covered with that fondant, smooth it out and then add in your bubble tea straws or your wooden dowels to support the weight of the top tier. I used 4 in total. I'm going to stick my 4-inch cake to my 6-inch cake underneath with the help of a straw to just kind of help me lift it up. Make sure that the lines are at the back of the cake and they both line up, so there's only one back. And then I hammered through a dowel as tall as the cake, and now you can shake it all you want, she's going to stay intact. So she's all ready for traveling. For the film strip, I am going to be printing it onto some icing sheets, removing the backing, and then sticking it to some fondant. I always like to apply whatever edible image I have to fondant before applying it onto the cake. Even if the cake has a fondant base, you never really want to apply the edible image directly onto the cake. By applying it onto the fondant first, make sure that it doesn't warp by the condensation in the fridge. Sometimes if you don't have that backing, it can bend and misshape. Trim it down. I stuck it all together with a little bit of water. You don't want to add too much water, you'll break down the icing sheet and all the ink will start to bleed. Then with a little bit of water behind that fondant strip, I'm going to be applying it on a diagonal, making sure that there's a decent chunk of that film strip hanging up over the top of the cake. Add on your next layer, line it up, and continue on this diagonal all the way to the base of the cake. She is pretty forgiving, you can move her around if you need to. And then I ended it with the film strip touching the cake board. So pretty low. This is going to be the front where you can see that overhang of the very top tier. And in between that space where there is a top tier and the bottom tier, there's like a little pocket of room that I left there to fill in with flowers. These are fresh flowers. The stems have been covered with cling film or Glad wrap or plastic food wrap and then pressed into the cake. Add in some little petals here and there to decorate, some greenery, and your cake is complete. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope this was an inspiring cake that you might try to recreate. And if you do, hashtag us Rosie's Dessert Spot so we can check it out. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you again in the next one. And stay tuned just now as I show you how to create the film strip if that's helpful for you. To create the film strip, we're going to be using Illustrator. I have an A4 canvas that I'm working with and just creating a rectangle. You can move over to transform and make it almost as tall as the piece of paper, so about 280 millimeters or so. Then copy, paste, so we have 2 of them. One I've colored black, one I'll color white, so I'll just go over to a little fill square and change the colors. resize it to the size you'd like your photo to be on the film strip, and then take that little internal circle, drag it towards the middle to round off the edges of your square. And then going to create a rectangle, making sure that it's as small as I want and putting it on the side just to fit in there, leaving a bit of a black border and then rounding off those edges as well. Control C to copy, Control P multiple times to paste lots of them. Select only those tiny rectangles, align them centered, and then distribute them evenly across. There was a bit too much space, so I copied a couple more and then hit that distribution spacing again. You want to group them, copy, move it to the other side, and then select both of these two copied grouped items, align them so that they're all nice and even, and then do the same for that larger rectangle in the middle. I'm going to fit 4 of them, roughly placing them, but then I'm going to go ahead and align them properly using that distribution spacing tool and the align middle tool. I wanted a little bit more black to be shown in between. And then once you're happy, group it, copy paste until you fill the entire A4 sheet of paper. These are the images that I'm going to be using. I've processed them to be black and white. I'm going to copy over one of those rectangles, rotate my image so that it's landscape with that frame, and then change the fill to be empty. I'm keeping the outline though, just so I can see where I'm placing the image and how it's being framed. These are my grandparents here on their Vespa in Italy many moons ago. And then once I like the position in the frame, I'll select the frame in the image and click Make Clipping Mask. So you left click or control click on the background there to get to that menu. Do the same for all your images, align them on the film strip till you can't see those little white blocks. And then you can send it to print immediately, or you could save it as PDF and print it from the PDF. I don't know why I just prefer to do it this way. Go to File, Print, and then I've got the Canon Pixma IX6860, and I got this one from a shop called Edible Image Supplies. I'll leave a link for you in the description box if you'd like to pick one up as well. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll leave that link also to the template in case you would like to just use it rather than make it yourself.